And it may be that we are kind of like that. People forgot us. People don't remember us. People don't know what we have done. But the most important thing is how much impact that we bring in others' life. What do we bring into people's life? The second point, the Word of God in the book of Mark 6, verse 34 says, "And Jesus, when he came out, saw a great multitude and was moved with compassion for them because they were like sheep not having a shepherd. So he began to teach them many things." Jesus was moved with compassion. I'm sure this kid, when Jesus was asking how many things we can give, this kid doesn't have that much. But for us to be able to become people that are impactful, we must be moved with compassion. Jesus was moved with compassion. True compassion means not only feeling another's pain, but also being moved to help relieve it. It may not completely resolve somebody's problem. It may not be something that become a great solution that save everybody's life or help everybody out or something. It may be something small, not important. Something that is not even put a dent, let's say. If somebody has a sea of troubles, maybe you're just throwing a stone in that sea. It's not making that much change. But an impact starts with compassion, focusing on others in our lives. Sometimes when we talk about ourselves, we're too busy with our needs, just like the disciple here. So Jesus was moved with compassion, and when the day now far spent, his disciple came to him and said, "This is deserted place, and already the hour is late. Send them away that they may go into the surrounding country and villages and buy themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat." But he answered and said to them, "You give them something to eat." And they said to him, "Shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give them something to eat?" You know, out of that 5,000 men and more kids and wives and everything, how many of them do you think have something to eat? Apparently, there's only zero. There's only that boy that has some food. Out of 5,000 people, nobody brought anything, including Jesus, the disciple. None of them brought food. Only the little kid did. Do you believe that? Do you think that the boy is the only one that brought food that day out of 5,000 people? I don't believe that. Somebody have something. Out of 5,000 people, it's impossible that there's only one out of 5,000 people brought food. Somebody had food. But the question is, which one is moved with compassion? Maybe the disciples said, "Send them away so that they get something to eat." The disciples themselves probably have food. They probably have something to eat. Or else they wouldn't go. In the book of Matthew, it says they were trying to go away from the crowd because they're going to an isolated place, a deserted place. They were trying to get away from the crowd so that they can eat. You read the book of Matthew, it says that. So they have something to eat. I mean, why would you go to a place that there's nothing and then say, "I want to eat over there"? I mean, there must be food. You're not going to say, "I'm going to FGF church and I'm going to eat there," but there's no food in FGF church. It doesn't make sense at all, right? It's a place where they cannot buy anything. So they have something. I believe they have something. But when you read the book of Mark, they said, "Send them away." Because we don't care about them. Just send them away. But Jesus was moved with compassion. Jesus said, "You give them something to eat." So wonderful. You know, it's very hard. It's very hard in this society to be moved with compassion. There's a lot of things that happens, sometimes overload of compassion, people trying to do this, do that, raise this, raise that, fundraising, this, that, a lot of things that people do. And sometimes we can be easily confused. Which one do we want to give? Which one do we give? Which one do we do? What should we do? But the third point in the next verse. In the book, in verse, let me see. I lost my. Oh, here you go. He said to them, verse 38. He said to them, "How many loaves do you have? Go and see. Go and find out." You can do the slide. How many do you have? Go and find out. Go and look. Go and see. See, Jesus is trying to show us to be impactful, to have an impactful life, begins with what is in your hands. How many do you have? Jesus didn't say, when the disciples said, "Shall we go and buy?" He didn't say, "Okay, here you go. Let me put a miracle. Boom, 200 denarii. You go buy the bread." That's not what happened. Jesus didn't say, "You know what? Let me just miraculously wave my hand, give thanks, and then suddenly bread comes from the heaven, falls down." That didn't happen. But what did he ask? He said, "How many do you have? How many things do you have? Go and find out." This is the key. When we talk about impactful life, how many do you have? Go and find out. How many do you have on your hand? How much money do you have? What talents do you have? What can you do? Where do you work? Where do you go to school? Where are you surrounding people? When are you with people? When do you go to the grocery? It's the place that you are going every single day and what you're already doing every single day. Because God is saying, what do you have? He's not asking for you to come somewhere and find something. He's not asking for us to go come up with something, like a mission or something like that. This Nicholas Winton didn't ask to start this mission. He didn't have this idea suddenly come up in his head. All he did was cancel his vacation trip to Switzerland to ski because he was invited by his friend, and his friend said, "You need to come here right away. You need to help me." And I don't even know the name of this other person, this friend that invited him from the British embassy. And when he came, he saw the needs of the people. He was moved with compassion. And that's how everything got started. But how many do we have? Go and find out. In the Indonesian word, it says, it's even better because it says, "Cobalah periksa." In English means, go and examine. Go and look for it. Go and search. Go and examine. Periksa. Periksa is examine. Like a doctor checking on you, examining you, testing you. It's like that, in Indonesian. It says examine. So we need to examine in our lives, what do we have? Where do we live? Who's our neighbor? Who's our friends? Who's the people surrounding us? Who are the people we see every day? Because those are the people that God wants us to have an impactful life. Those are the people that God puts in our hand for us to do something about. The next thing. How many loaves do you have? Go and see. And when they found out, they said, 5 and 2 fish. The next point is 5 small loaves of bread and 2 small fish. You see the picture? I always thought that the bread is kind of like your, what do you call it? The one that's long, and it's like Mrs. Baird, I always thought that way, but when you look up at the time, the culture, the bread is like that. It's like a tortilla. You can finish it. 5 is just enough for 5 people. And then it says in the Bible, in the book of John, it's very interesting. It says 5 small loaves of bread. There's an emphasis on small. And then it says 2 small fish. Very interesting, right? It's not saying it's like a big whale or something. It's just two small fish and two small loaves of bread. I mean, that's barely enough for me. Except I don't eat bread anymore, right? So if I'm just looking at the fish, it's not even enough. Even at this stomach, no, it's still not enough, right? I mean, if for most of you, it probably is not enough. And for this kid to say, wow, that's it. That's all I have. And I have to give it away. That's all his lunch, and he had to give it away to these people. 5 small loaves of bread and 2 small fish. The boy is probably thinking, I don't even know if makes sense. I don't even know if this is enough. I don't even know if, what is he going to do with this 5 bread and 2 fish? He didn't know. He didn't know what the process is to be impactful. He doesn't come up with strategy to be impactful. Unlike us listening to preaching today, but the boy at the time didn't hear any preaching about you need to be impactful. Never heard. He doesn't know what he's supposed to do. All he knows is Jesus is asking for it. The boy doesn't know anything at all. But he knows one thing. Jesus is asking for it. So he gave it up. See, many times in our lives, maybe we have something that's so small that we thought, well, this is not a big thing. It's not going to impact anybody. It's not going to do anything to anybody. I don't know how to preach. I don't know how to share. I don't know how to do this, to do that. Many times we don't know the process to be impactful. And we don't need to. We don't need to understand the process. We don't need to analyze anything to be impactful. You just have to do it. Just have to do it. So this kid decided, you know what? This is all I have for my lunch. So I'm going to give it. Doesn't matter if it's enough or not enough. Maybe it'll fit one person. Maybe only one person besides me. Yeah, but I'll give it anyway. You know, when I look at Catherine and Lizzie, like last night, they were fighting. Katie wanted this big, like the styrofoam, like what do you call it? It's like a stick, like the one you use when you're swimming. You have like the little stick, styrofoam, and then the big thing, and then they're like fighting for it because one want to use it and the other one wants to use it also. So they were fighting for it. Which one of me? It's mine. It's mine. It's mine. Kids do that. But this kid, something is different about him. He's willing to give it up. Because I believe he understands, even though it's small, it's important for him to give. And maybe he's moved by compassion. I don't know. And Bible never writes anything about this kid. Never wrote anything at all. It's just one little word, a boy, that's it. Nothing else is mentioned about him. Because of one little boy, 5,000 got fed. Can you imagine about what we have? I'm sure it's more than one little boy has. How many people can it impact? Can you imagine how much impact? I mean, this guy, Nicholas Winton, he's nobody. He still works. So in the morning, he works until late at night because he was working as a stockbroker. So around 7 p.m. he stops. And then from 7 p.m. he started working on getting this visa for these kids. So 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. he works. And his employee is only his mom, him, and 2-3 volunteers. Every night they work. Every night they work trying to get these kids visa. They started in December 1938, and then they got the first train come in on March 39. 3-4 months to get them on board to save these kids. Nothing big, something small. He doesn't have an office. He just works from his house. He doesn't do anything big. But he set up a foundation. He called it some committee or something. It's not authorized. And then he just set it up. And then he just went with it. But 669 kids. I mean, that's not a small number. 669, that's not small.